Hi friends, and welcome back. Happy fall. In the spirit of the new season, today I wanted to share a cute little pumpkin embroidery tutorial. So here I'm just making a tiny embroidery, and I decided to make it a little bit 3D. And so to go ahead and get started on this, what I'm doing here is just making a couple of stitches as the base layer. Now this part of the pumpkin embroidery, it doesn't matter how it looks. It's honestly messy, sloppy stitches, and that's totally fine because this is just going to be the base layer. So this is just a series of straight stitches, and so here I'm just kind of sloppily coloring in the bottom of each of these little pumpkin groove sections. For this base layer, I am using all 6 strands of the DMC embroidery floss, and the color orange I'm using is 3776. I think it's just like the perfect little pumpkin orange, and the thickness of using all 6 strands helps make this puffier at a quicker pace as opposed to using, say, 3 strands of floss, which is typically what I stitch with. Now that my base layer is done, I'm simply going to satin stitch each of the different sections of my pumpkin, and I'm doing so horizontally. If you're not familiar with a satin stitch, it's basically just like coloring with your thread back and forth. So you come up on one side, down on the other side, and then you just keep repeating to fill in the section it is that you're wanting to fill it in. So here I'm just going to go ahead and do that for the 4 different sections of this pumpkin, and with each stitch that I'm making, I'm just simply going over top of those messy stitches we created in the beginning, and in doing so, that'll help our pumpkin become a bit more 3D. Now, adding that first base layer was totally optional. You could choose to not add the base layer, and that just means that you would have more of a flat pumpkin, but I really love the look and just the texture that it gives by adding in that base layer to make it a bit puffier and just add some more interest to our piece or our little pumpkin. For these satin stitches, I did end up stitching with just 3 strands of embroidery floss, as that's just kind of my preferred and go-to number of strands to use when using the satin stitch. And anyways, whenever you use all 6 strands, sometimes it just makes it extra difficult to pull through your fabric and then go back down through your fabric, especially when you're going next to those other satin stitches that you went right next to. So here I'm just using the 3 strands, and that makes for easy and smooth stitching when coming up and down with my needle. So the 4 sections of the orange part of the pumpkin are done. Now I'm moving on to the stem. Here I'm using DMC embroidery floss 3863. It's a nice light color brown, and here I'm using just 3 strands of the embroidery floss. I could have used the 6 strands for that base layer, which is what I'm filling in with, but I decided to go ahead with the 3 since it's such a small stitching section. So now here I've switched, and I'm going ahead with the satin stitches again, basically just doing the same thing as the orange pumpkin portion and satin stitching horizontally. to complete my little pumpkin here, I'm using 2 strands of DMC 3364, which is a pretty light green, and here I'm using the stem stitch. So I'll make a link above to like a tutorial if you're not sure how to make the stem stitch. You can watch that video in detail, but it is a simple little stitch and perfect for little stems and little vines like we are stitching here on this pumpkin. I think our little pumpkin here turned out so cute, and I really do love the lifted elevation that that base layer of sloppy stitches gives to give it a bit more of a 3D and textured look. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you're looking for some other fun fall stitching, be sure to check out this DIY fabric embroidered pumpkin tutorial.